My name is Hannah Rothwell, and I'm here to change the world. I have a bachelor's degree in economics, a master's degree in education and innovation, a certificate in teaching English as a second language, and a certificate in international education. And I believe that we can do education better. During my master's program, my studies focused around 4 central ideas: creativity, transformation, leadership, and lifelong learning. The first idea was cultivating creativity. Now, I understand this to mean demonstrating, advocating for, and encouraging the pursuit of creative and innovative thinking styles amongst my students and my colleagues. I had 2 artifacts to demonstrate my pursuit of this idea. The first artifact was a digital literacy workshop. Now, this was created as a professional development workshop for colleagues to encourage them to look into new and innovative creative tools and to become comfortable utilizing these tools in the classroom. The second artifact was an essay in which I describe a gap that I noticed between my students' desires for their educational outcomes and the actual attainment of those outcomes. In this essay, I outline my idea for a course curriculum that I think can be a creative solution to help bridge that gap. The second idea was about teaching transformation. I understood this to mean promoting and prompting deep critical examination and reflection about our ideas, our preconceived notions, and the educational environment in which we grew up. My first artifact for this idea was an essay that I wrote where I deconstruct and critically examine what I call the American model of study abroad and the ethical implications of that. My second artifact was a workshop that I created in the MA Eden program. This workshop is about writing applications for universities. We do this by taking students through several reflective exercises. These exercises include critical examination of their goals, about their motivations, and how their educational experiences and personal experiences connect to the goals that they have for their future and their university career. My third idea is about leading and learning. Now, I understand this to mean being intentional about your leadership approach and your team building style. I had 3 artifacts for this idea. My first artifact was my own reflective experience in the leadership and innovation class. My second artifact was a leadership interview that I did with my former supervisor. This is a woman whose leadership style I worked under and I really admired. And my third artifact was my own personal leadership development plan. In this artifact, I self-assessed my own strengths and weaknesses as a leader and as a team builder, and then I also created tangible goals for my future leadership. My fourth idea was lifelong learning. I understood this to mean taking an iterative approach to education and integrating continuous experiences into your educational methodologies and your approach towards your students. My first article was a video I created where I outlined my teaching philosophy in simple terms. This includes everything from my approach towards students, materials, instruction, learning, and reflection. My second artifact was an in-depth workshop that I created called Developing Your Teaching Persona. In this workshop, I guide young teachers through a series of reflective exercises where they reflect on their own experiences as a student and their goals for how they want their students to view them, how they want their students to feel when they're leaving their classroom. I once heard mystery described with the image of an ocean. Imagine that you can't see and you're standing next to the ocean. Your perception of the ocean is based on the sounds and the smell of the salty air and maybe the little bits of water that tickle your toes. And then all of a sudden the sun comes up and you can see, and it's so much more vast and more beautiful than you could ever have imagined. Then you get out into a boat and you go all the way out to the horizon and you look back and you just see sea from edge to edge. And then you think back to when you thought that the ocean was just sounds and the smell of salty air and the little bits of water that tickle your toes. What changed? Was it the ocean or was it your perception and your understanding of it? Then let's say you put on some scuba equipment, you get out of your boat and you go down and you discover this beautiful coral reef and you see fish and colors and plants and things that you never could have imagined. And then you think back to when you were in the boat and you thought that the ocean was just this beautiful line stretching from horizon to horizon. What changed? Was it the ocean, or was it your perception and your understanding? And then you realize that even with all this beauty and this color and this life, you've only explored a tiny fraction of what the ocean has to offer. My academic identity, I think, is best described by a coral reef. It's beautiful and it's dynamic and it's so much more vast than we could have imagined. But it also can feel overwhelming and sometimes frustrating if you're trying to categorize it based on old boxes and old ideas that don't quite fit what you understand now. That's why my goal as an educator is to help guide students through the beautiful and rewarding and frustrating and sometimes messy process of discovery and education.